This is in response to Billy's Talking Points memo from Thursday, May 28th, 2015, The Decline of American Power, Part Deux. Deux. It's almost like I'm feeling that in the little time that I've been doing this with Billy, that his redundancy is just tremendous. He repeats himself all the time. I guess it's difficult for those 72 or plus year old white men to remember these things, so he has to bring it in all the time. Oh, and then I forgot, there's the fear factor that he wants to bring in all the time. So the first thing he wants to talk about in terms of American power is he has indicated very clearly that President Obama and no one else has botched everything with ISIL, Daesh, and he has shows excuse me, a Frontline article that has the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff indicating that they really didn't know what to do when they were unprepared when ISIL came around, and had him quoting a couple things and also indicating that our quote-unquote training the Assyrian rebels has just gone absolutely nowhere, in that we had hoped to have trained 5,000 and we have trained approximately about 90. So he wants to indicate that the American power is going downhill from abroad only because of ISIL. And of course, that is a very serious issue which we need to take hold of. Sometimes it's very hard to be able to track what's going on in a lot of ways. Anyone that has a great understanding of what goes on in the Middle East, that it isn't just Arabs. I mean, even Rand Paul said that the Turks need to get along with the Kurds, which isn't going to happen. But you have the Turks, you got the Kurds, you got the Sunnis, you have the Shia, and within spattered through all of those areas are a number of different sects, and they all have their own way of doing things, and it's not going to be an easy thing to accomplish in any way, shape, or form. It's just something we should have never gotten into, but now that we're here, I think that some of the best strategy is we sort of need to trudge our way through, because we really don't know if Iraq is an actual state at this particular point in time, or if it can become an actual state, or whatever. So, and a lot of things can go wrong. Those unintended consequences are really going to go wrong. And of course, Billy has to go into his next part, which is on the decrease of American power at home. And the first thing he wants to complain about is 110 million people who are on the dole. And so these are people, as he claims, that are outside of Medicaid and Medicare, who are getting government services. And so those are people who are getting food stamps, they're getting SNAP benefits, they're getting, what the heck else could they be getting? Well, I'm getting the earned income tax credit because of my financial situation. I don't know, am I still getting it? I don't know. I can't remember what I did last time. But the thing that I want to point out here is that, again, all Billy wants to do is get into the blame game. He wants to blame, America was brought up by hard work. We're not lazy people. The people who are getting government services, getting freebies from the government that are on the dole, they're all lazy people. They're moochers. We don't want them. We need to get rid of them. We have so much power and potential that we just need to generate that power and potential, because the Founding Fathers, they didn't have any dole to work on. And then he made a comparison to the Great Depression. And of course, we didn't have anything before the Great Depression in terms of Social Security and things like that. Now, I'd like to point out very, very quickly here that if you're talking about these 110 million people, how many of those are people who are getting a tax deduction on the interest on their home, which has been around for about 70 years, I believe? And how many of them have health? How many of them have health-sponsored? Get their health care through their employer, and their employer gets a tax break for that, gets that as a deduction. Whereas if I were to buy something on the open market, from a technical standpoint, that's not a deduction for me. But if I became an LLC or an S corporation or a C corporation, I got health insurance for my company, so to speak, and I was on it and I was the only person, then I could use that as a deduction. I think I got that one right. So those are just two instances. Now, that would also mean that Billy himself is on the dole. That means he's got at least one house, and I understand it's a pretty nice house. And I'm sure he uses the tax deduction for that, and I'm sure he has the best health care plan available that Fox can get for him, and Fox uses that as a tax deduction. And I would also venture to say that since the average person that watches Billy's show is 70 to 72 years old, that most of the people who watch his show are getting Medicare. So that's, well, he said besides Medicare. So, but I would say that if any of them had either owned their house or had owned their house in the past, that they got the tax deduction for it. So there are many legitimate tax deductions out there. We can debate whether or not we still should need them. As an example, I would say that maybe we shouldn't have a tax deduction for the interest on a second house. Now, builders would say, no, we have to have that. So that's a good discussion to have. I'm ambivalent either way, but I could see a point in both directions. But the thing is, that right now is a legitimate tax deduction. And that means that particular person who has strived to have enough money to have one house and now wants to have a second house, they're on the dole. And, he wants to blame the Dems. He wants to blame anyone who is on the dole, that they want to be on the dole because the Dems have created a society, have created a structure, have created a government where they're in dire need of being on the dole. And as I have said many times before, I have worked in the projects, and I have seen a lot of people who did not have very much get up every single day and go to work. And yes, there were some of those who stayed around all day long and did nothing, but that's just the same as the general population. And I saw a lot of people who did not have a lot take a lot of time and care to take care of their children and to trying to make things right as best they possibly could. And believe me, it is difficult to do when you don't have a whole heck of a lot. I was just wondering, does Billy, is his child care, is that tax deductible? I can't remember if that's tax deductible or not because I didn't give it, I got it.